Actually, can yeah. All right, let's get started. Call to order at 6:45 p.m. We'll begin with roll call. Hossein,
Yo.
Hugans, Price, Innes, Sargent, Rana,
Yeah.
Hines, and Freddie. Polaris, Lou, Lewin, Golfin, Violet, Sochet, Giordina is here, Teata, Senators. Well, shit. Alvarez,
Here.
Bergman. Bergman's here. I didn't hear it. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Bethel,
Yeah.
Buva, Brocklow,
Here.
Bird,
Here.
Caceres, Chen, Chow, Clark, Convoy, Conrad, Ortiz,
Here.
Crook, Essick, File,
Here.
Ghanem, Hassan, Himes, Jones. Where's Phil? He may have. I must have. Khan. Oh, Shabby's coming late actually. Lopez. Carlos. Lashkar Niagara. Myers. Montini. Can we close the door, please? CB. Mufa. Ing. Patel. Price.
Here.
Rana.
Yeah.
Rana.
Yeah.
Chibet. Next. Romanev. I'm sorry. That's a funny one, Chair. He's very, very well respected. Saha.
Here.
Schaefer. Shu.
Here.
Sonorai. Thatcher. Wright. Okay. Some of these people are coming late too. Yeah, absolutely. But make sure you get all the people who come in too. Some people are coming late. They know me. Alright, we begin with public comment. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for public comment? Your name? Okay, so recognized.
Hello, my name is Nicole Bino, and I'm a junior at the University of Connecticut. I started attending back in fall of 2012, and I encountered a lot of issues with the sidewalks. I have submitted pictures to the Center for Students with Disabilities, which is common procedure for getting cracks and any other issues settled with them. And they have not been responding to the pictures I've sent in, and I am still waiting for the issues to be settled. And I just thought I would bring it up to everyone here so that I could hopefully get some help from everyone and get this issue settled. And I also have some pictures for evidence if anyone would like to see them. And another issue as well is the maintenance people oftentimes do not shovel the sidewalks properly, and they leave too little space in order for me to be able to get through. And I believe that with your help we could fix this issue too.
Thank you, Nicole, for coming. We appreciate it. Senator Byrd, if you could take the pictures and distribute them amongst senators. Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to be recognized for public comment? Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, classes are canceled for tomorrow, but you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. They're delayed, Andrea. Wow. Sorry, my minute taker just screwed me in front of all of us. All right. Is there anybody else who'd like to be recognized for public comment? Seeing none, we move into approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from December 4, 2013. I'd like to entertain a motion. Mukbat, seconded by Alvarez. Are there any questions regarding the minutes from December 4, 2013? Is there any debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the minutes from December 4, 2013, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Thoroughly passes. Next, we move into approval of the minutes from January 29, 2014. I'd like to entertain a motion to ratify these minutes. In the back there, Sonorai, seconded by Romanev. Any questions regarding the minutes? Seeing none, we move into debate. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the minutes from January 29, 2014, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Really passes. Congratulations on approving minutes from December 4th and January 29th. Next, we move into legislative funding. We move into an act concerning funding for Student National Pharmaceutical Association, Senator Saha, Senator Price.
An act concerning emergency funding for UConn Student National Pharmaceutical Association. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving the experience of the student body through the funding of undergraduate student initiatives. Whereas UConn SNAPA, thank you, is the 6th ranked SNAPA organization of the East Coast out of 22. Whereas UConn SNAPA has requested funding for their initiative to attend the prestigious SNAPA Regional Conference held annually in Richmond, Virginia. Whereas the 5 higher-ranked SNAPA chapters will be in attendance, allowing the UConn SNAPA to learn how to expand their organization and improve their ranking. Whereas the above-mentioned initiative has a high likelihood of success and bears clear merit to the student body. Whereas UConn SNAPA has their funding application approved in the fall 2013 budget for funds totaling in $908.25 to attend this conference, including one registration fee. Whereas UConn SNAPA requires an additional $630 for registration fees because the National SNAPA organization did not specify that the registration price was per individual instead of per chapter. Whereas the above-mentioned initiative is a Category D application, and therefore pursuant to Section 4.3.4.A of the funding policies, it may be funded up to 75% of the original $630. Therefore, be it resolved that the undergraduate student government allocates $472.50 for the above-mentioned initiative of UConn SNAPA.
Senator Price, I'll give you the, wow, this is really loud. Sorry, I'll move this down. Senator Price, you get the motion. Senator Saha, you get the second. We'll begin with questions. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for questions regarding this legislation? Thank you, Senator Saha. Senator Price, we'll move into debate. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying an act concerning funding for SNAPA, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? It passes. Congratulations to the group. Senator Brockman for an act concerning funding. Yeah. It's off. It does. Can you put this in? Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now concerning funding, La Unidad Latina Lambda Upsilon Lambda. 2 in 1 day, Senator Price.
An act concerning funding for La Unidad Latina Lambda Upsilon Lambda Fraternity, Inc. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with improving the experience of the student body through the funding of undergraduate student initiatives. Whereas La Unidad Latina Lambda Epsilon Lambda has requested funding for their event Noche Dorada. Whereas the above initiative has been successful in the past, which shows clear merit to the undergraduate student body. Whereas this event is a great example of the diversity on the UConn campus. Whereas the cost to accommodate 200 undergraduate students is more expensive than previously anticipated. Whereas this group has requested an additional $1,740.25 to be used in conjunction with the $3,000 previously allocated to them, for a total catering cost of $4,740.25. Whereas this is a Category A event and is eligible to be funded at 100%. Therefore, be it resolved, the undergraduate student government allocates an additional $1,740.25 for La Unidad Latina Lambda Upsilon Lambda Fraternity.
Senator Price, I'll give you the motion again. Senator Brockwell, I'll give you the second. And any questions regarding legislation? Thank you, Senator Price. Senator Brockwell. Next we move into debate. Is there anybody who'd like to direct this for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying this act, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion passes. Congratulations. Next we move into a report of the executive, President Corshine.
Good evening, everyone. So on Sunday, I saw many of you at our strategic planning session. Thank you to those of you who were able to attend. A few of the things that we talked about included expanding the visibility of USG to everyone. So we will be undertaking a few initiatives to try and make that happen. Those include some things we're going to be doing with the new website. Also increasing the awareness of public comment as an option for people to come tell us about things going on campus, as we saw tonight, and a number of other strategies that we'll be working on over the next few weeks. To update you on some issues that are going on with my group, we finally got in touch with University Communications with regards to use of the logo, as well as the practices surrounding the memorials for students who passed away during their time here at UConn. On both of those counts, we were given rather unproductive responses. So in about 2 weeks, John will be meeting with the Vice President for Communications, since I will not be around on that day, to make sure that we get some real answers on those issues. If you are interested in working on legislation surrounding that, let me know, and I'll get you involved in the conversations so that once we are ready to legislate on that, you are ready and able to do some writing and do some good work on those. I actually did not get a chance to talk to him about this ahead of time, but seeing as he sent in a letter and I was impressed by that letter, I'm going to nominate Colin to chair the bylaws review committee that we talked about last time. It's going to be a really fun task with a lot of really exciting and not at all dry work involved. So thank you for that, Colin. This committee is an ad hoc being appointed by the executive office, so at this time does not need approval, but if anybody has any questions or wants to discuss with me anything about that committee, let me know, and we'll be looking for members as we get going with that. And I promise that I'll talk to you about this after the meeting, since I haven't had a chance to ask you about that ahead of time. So, big issue, and this came up on Sunday at our strategic planning meeting. The president released the task force report for the Civility and Campus Culture Task Force that did its work last semester. Quick show of hands, just so I know generally who's looked at that, who read through that message and that report. Great. If you have not yet done so, please take a look. There's a lot of information in there with regards to what the task force did for work last semester, as well as some of the things that will be happening as a result. For those of you who read, you already know this, but if you haven't, USG has been tasked with the job of establishing core values for the University of Connecticut community. That task is about as enormous as it sounds, and we are interested to see how the administration plans on partnering with us on that issue. Having read the report, initial impressions is that they were not intending on partnering with us at all. I do assure you that the Division of Student Affairs is interested in helping. However, we're not sure how far that extends into the rest of the administration, and thus we are probably going to have to leverage for access to things such as orientation, to university-wide listers, etc. We'll be taking a more comprehensive stance on this as we work on the details of it, but as of right now, I think it is safe to say that the President's office has not shown sufficient leadership on the issue of following through with her own task force. The issue of sexual assault on campus have clearly been of extreme importance to students. They've been important to faculty. It has been an important thing for the entire community. And without any specific timeline of when we can start to see changes as a result from the task force, without any sense of urgency that the findings of her own task force are actually important to her, I don't know that we can necessarily say that they are showing the leadership on such an important issue as they need to be. So as we work on this, we'll make sure that they are involved on our work as much as we are leading them, as they are leading us. But if you're interested in anything going on with that, please let me know. With that, any questions?
Any questions for the President? Thank you, President Crochet. Next we move to the report of the Vice President, Vice President Wiggins.
My report is pretty short this week. I met with CAC last week, and we talked over the concern of how the new conference will affect our student athletes and their academic performance. They're currently doing a study and investigating that and tracking the number of class hours missed for our student athletes to make sure that they're getting the best academic performance out of them. Today we actually met with Michael Gilbert from the Division of Student Affairs, and we are working on setting up a date for him to present to you guys next week. It's either going to be the 19th or the 20th in the late afternoon. So please keep an eye on your emails. This is regarding the fee that you guys are passing legislation on later in the Senate. Michael Gilbert just wants to meet with you guys and explain the information that he has so far, so that way we can work with him to bring those changes you guys want to see forward. So really important, next week, 19th or 20th, please keep an eye on your emails. And last thing, my first meeting for our Ducks will hopefully be later this week, just waiting on one last person to fill out a doodle, and then we'll get started with that. If you guys do have anything that you want to bring to that committee, but you were not able to come to any of the meeting times, please email me and we will consider any and all opinions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the Vice President? Thank you, Vice President Wiggins. Next we will move into the report of the Comptroller. Comptroller Price.
Hi everyone. Sorry I was late. I was getting my car stopped, which I'm really excited about. In case you wanted to know. This week, all I've been working on is our Student Fee Advisory Committee budget hearing, which was yesterday, and it went very well. And then I have prepared our semesterly budget for this evening, which I will present later, and I'll go through in detail where that money is going, just how last Senate I gave you a breakdown. You can also see a slightly different breakdown of categories this Senate. And other than that, that's really all. Nothing I can think of notes to let you know that I won't touch on later today.
Are there any questions for the Comptroller? Thank you, Comptroller Price. Next we move to report of Chief of Staff. Chief of Staff Jarvina.
Just a couple things today. First, the website that I talked to you guys about last time, hopefully be launched by the end of next week and the beginning of the week after that. We want to have it available for people to come to when they're voting and during elections. Next, elections are coming up. If you didn't submit a declaration of interest form and you're still interested in running for senator or being reelected, you can still submit a packet. You can still get on the ballot if you submit one by next Friday, Friday the 22nd of February by noon to the USG office. The packets are available at usg.uconn.edu. And if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I am, as well as Chief of Staff, also the head of the EOC, so I'll handle any policy questions you also have for campaigning. And that brings up the final point that no campaigning in the USG office. Don't even talk about who's running or anything related to the elections unless you're asking myself or a member of the judiciary a policy question. And we'll probably take you aside into a room and answer your question there. But anything else about elections, don't talk about it.
Are there any questions for the Chief of Staff? Thank you, Chief of Staff Jarvina. Next we move to the Board of Legislators. How's it going? Coming up for Senate, later today, Senator Byrd has been working on legislation that affects all of you with respect to office hours. We'll get more on that coming up later. Next caucus, the Accessibility Committee will be talking to us about the accessibility of the organization as a whole. That's what we have scheduled for next Wednesday. Number 3, we have town hall meetings that we're scheduling, that we're working towards. They are going to happen. And we want as many senators as possible to make these as successful as possible. So it's not a requirement, but for senators who want to interact with constituents directly, we're working on getting food, space, and a time and a location to make you comfortable doing that. I think the first one is going to start off in North Campus in the multi-purpose room, but John is going to be doing the booking for that. And as far as the time, we had a date, but that date happened to coincide with the presidential debate, so we need another date. So if there's a time that you guys are more comfortable doing it, we can do it at that time. And then some of the topics of these town hall meetings, they're going to be decided as we get closer to the event, but some of the things that we've thought about, we being me and Colin, have included the student recreation facility, sexual harassment on campus, campus safety, any other issue that we're working on as USG, or that's a pertinent campus issue is fair game. So those are the 3 things that I have for you guys. Does anyone have any questions? Look confused. Sorry, I'm just kidding. All right, thanks guys. Move forward to the judiciary.
Hi everybody, I just wanted to reiterate the points that John made. So the packets are due Friday the 21st. And make sure that you're not campaigning in the office. Like, don't even say, I'm running for this office. Like, don't do it. Okay. Good luck if you're running. Thanks.
Are there any questions for the Justice? Seeing none, thank you, Justice Liu. Next we move into new business. So we begin with an act concerning the budget for spring of 2014. Comptroller Price. Yeah, it should, yeah.
No, I just, yeah. Okay. An act concerning the spring 2014 budget of the undergraduate student government. Whereas the undergraduate student government is required to pass a budget each semester under its constitution. Therefore, be it resolved, the undergraduate student government adopts the proposed budget as presented by Comptroller Price, or me. Okay, so the column to the left, just to give you guys an idea of what all these numbers mean. The one all the way to the left, which is the 1.5 million, is the fee revenue for this fiscal year, or what is estimated to be. We're still getting in some money from students. And the 599,562 is the rollover from last year. So right now we're in fiscal year 14. So that totaled 2.1 million. Obviously we spent some of that last semester. So now what we're really focusing on is the spring semester and how much money we have now. So the fee revenue that we are expected to get is $752,942. The fund balance that we had at the beginning of the semester was actually larger than that. It was $817,871. So that totals 1.5 million. So that's what we're looking at just for this semester to spend. Obviously, we don't want to spend it all because then we run our fund balance down to zero and we need reserves and things like that. But the rollover, as Ed and I were explaining, is due in part to increased enrollment, also because of our new funding system, which happened, although it was a year and a half ago, it's taken a little bit to adjust, and groups tend to ask for more money than they actually spend. It's also in part due to a fee increase that was asked for 2 years ago when we didn't seem to have that much money that we might not, that now we're only starting to see the effects of. So this semester, what both Ed and I have done is budgeted to try to cut down on that fund balance and also spend our fee revenue. So each of the committees have their various amounts of money, which hopefully they can individually explain to you what they're spending it on. But some things of note I would like to point out is funding board. They, for the first time, what I did was over-allocate funds to funding board. So I basically assumed that groups would only spend 75% of their budget. So that way, because they probably do, if that. So that way we're not going to keep rolling over money. So that's why they're getting 876. Usually they would be getting around in the 600,000. Exec has a large budget. 80,000 of that is going towards renovating a cottage on Depot campus. And that is going to be used for storage of groups' inventory. Storing supplies has been a problem for years, really, and right now it's not appropriate how some of the inventory is being stored. So 80,000 is going towards that. The project in all will total about 200,000, but we're splitting it up over semesters. Other things are like spring weekend, advertising, New York Times, that all comes out of exec's budgets. Some other things to look at, USG General. That is wages, student wages, and also office operation, and we're looking into buying some more hardware for the computers. The reserves has some money in for a new computer system, and guard dogs, as you can see, does still have some money, and that's in case we're going to look into maybe purchasing a van. Although it stopped running, it doesn't mean that we can't invest in it, because I'm confident it's going to pick up again next semester and be better than ever. And then Senate, you guys will have your own budget of 2,000, and that's for town halls that Shiv was talking about. So please ask me questions if you don't understand any of the numbers, if you would like any more details. Hopefully next Senate I can give you another breakdown so that you can each have that so you know where the money's going. Also on the next tab, if you just tab 2 and slowly scroll down, this is the breakdown of each committee and what they're spending their money on. So if you want a copy of that, I can definitely send that out to you.
I'd like to entertain a motion. This mic is really loud. Yeah, Senator Alvarez, give it a second to Byrd. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Yes, Senator Clark.
That is under the USG General. I have already put money in, and that actually I've already been thinking about that weeks ago. So yes, I will start researching. If you want to research for some furniture as well, get me some quotes. The faster, the more quotes we get, the better. And yeah, we can start to order some new chairs.
Any other questions?
Some more furniture for the SOC is in there as well. Cool.
Any other questions? Thank you, Comptroller Price. Next, we move into debate. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying the budget for spring 2014 as presented by the Comptroller, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion passes. Congratulations. Next, we move into a statement of position regarding smoking on campus.
Right. So, a little bit of background on this, because this is a project that has been in the works since before this time last year, a time which many of you were here for. So, essentially, University Senate last year considered a bill to change smoking policies on campus. President Petkus asked Margaret Meyer, who is in the back, who is going to graduate school for Masters of Public Health, to do a survey and critique of the student opinion on smoking so that we can make an informed decision on what's going on. In the time that we were doing that, the University Senate passed their resolution without waiting for us, but started a task force to analyze the implementation of that. So now would be the time for us to weigh in on the issue of smoking at UConn. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get this through committee in a complete form like we normally want to beforehand. But because the provost will be receiving recommendations on this on Friday, if we want to weigh in on the issue, unfortunately we have to do this tonight. So I apologize. This was not an attempt to have some sort of smoke-filled backroom thing to get rid of smoke on campus. Thanks. So, to begin with, I'm going to have Maggie come up and give a brief presentation on the survey that was conducted last year and that data and that background, and then I will read this bill for all of you.
Are you kidding me? Wait, I don't think I am.
Dude, let's hear it. Why?
He wasn't feeling well.
I got it.
All right, go ahead. Now,
Alright, so this electron's driving and gets pulled over. And officer pulls him over and says, the guy, electron goes, what was I doing wrong? He goes, you were going 70 miles an hour. And the electron goes, now I don't know where I am.
oh, that's
I appreciate it.
strong work.
Okay, I've never got to use these. All right, so hi everyone. My name is Jackie Mayer. Ed did a good job of giving you guys some background on what this is all about. But I'm just going to give you guys some background on what I've done in the last year and help you guys make an informed decision on the piece of legislation that you will see when I am done. So, all right, the purpose of speaking today will be to present the data that I collected in my survey, as well as to update you guys on what we've done in the Smoking Policy Task Force, where I've been the undergraduate representative. And it will also be to provide a background so that you'll understand, like I said, that legislation that you're getting later today. I was set to this task a year ago, partially by my own interest in the topic, and partially by just hearing about it through friends in USG. I conducted this survey, which I'll get to later, and then eventually presented this information to the executive committee last year under Steve Peckus to get ready to do some internal work with USG to make some different things happen. We did not get there, but in that time I was set to work with this task force that had been convened as part of the policy. And that task force is about to put forth their report. So we're almost there, we're almost to the final product. So I conducted this survey in order to collect student opinion, in order to get a strong understanding of how students felt about this issue, because I knew it was controversial, we knew it would be controversial, and it would be better to have a good understanding as we move forward. And I'm going to update you guys on where we are and where we are going, because the policy was passed, like Ed said, before any of us can do anything about it. So the current policy stands that smoking is prohibited within 25 feet of dorms, the library, student health services, the student union, child labs or field trips with children, air intakes, open windows, flammable materials, and within all UConn buildings. Connecticut state law prohibits smoking in any public building or public institution, so there's that. If you actually look at this and think about it, this leaves a very limited amount of space that actually does permit smoking within 25 feet of the building. There would be classroom buildings and some administrative offices. But you'll note that it prohibits air intakes too, and if anyone's seen that giant air intake by Chem, you may be able to smoke around Chem, but you can't smoke near the air intake. So you'll see that this gets a little bit more complicated than it may enumerate right here. So University Senate passed this policy, that on the right side, and this prohibits smoking a minimum distance of 25 feet away from any and all university buildings or air intakes across all 6 campuses. We're not really going to focus on the 6 campuses part right here. We're just going to focus on stores. But you'll note that this is only slightly different from what's already in place. Like I said, there are only a few buildings that don't fall under the original policy, so this is simply making it easier to understand where it is that students, faculty, staff can and cannot smoke. I'd also like to present the alternative that the Senate was considering, which was a smoking ban on campus. So absolutely no smoke anywhere that is UConn campus, which I think pretty much anyone could agree would not go well if we tried to implement that right now. Although the university does look to go there in the future, for now they've agreed that this is not we are going to pass that up for now. So, what I did was send a survey to all undergraduate students on campus back last April. I received 2,759 responses from 7 days worth of having that survey open. I would have had it open longer if I could. It was approaching finals time, and I did need time to evaluate the results before I presented it to Steve. But we did get a 16% response rate, which is pretty good with 17,000 students. And just to break down the demographics a little bit, 472 self-identified smokers. Note that self-identified does not necessarily include people who smoke casually or smoke when they drink, things of that nature. These are people who, on the survey, stated themselves as smokers. So that was 22%, and then 78% non-smokers, 1,705 participants. So the survey questions, you don't have to read through all of them. There's a lot, as you can see. And I am going to go through basically what were the most important ones and help you understand what we're going to get from it. So, this was a question that was meant to ascertain how people felt about the current policy. You'll note that the majority of people actually felt that the current policy is not restrictive enough. They felt that smoking needed to be restricted more on campus than it was already, which certainly does indicate the desire on campus for change. You will next see that this question asking them about the 25-foot rule. We do have 65% of students supporting or strongly supporting the 25-foot rule, which is absolutely huge in comparison to 22% saying they are opposing or strongly opposing that policy. How does this break down by demographic? You'll find that smokers, as many of us would expect, 56% were in opposition, 28% were in support. It should be noted that 56 to 28 is not as big as the difference that you're going to see here, which is 73% in support and 14% in opposition from non-smokers. And not something that we would be surprised by seeing. But note that for both smokers and non-smokers, there are people on both sides of the issue. So people were really taking into consideration how they felt before they selected answers to these questions. Another response that we would have expected, 51% of people not supporting the smoking ban. Like I said, not a shock. But there was a pretty hefty number of people who did support the smoking ban, 36%, which, you know, is good if the university does choose to move towards that in the future. Based on open-ended questions, which I won't include answers for here because there were 2,000 of them, looked a lot towards creation of cessation programs, desires for enforcement of current policy or future policy, comfortable areas for smokers. So this issue is extremely complex, and all of these issues were discussed by the Smoking Policy Task Force. So to give you a picture of what the task force did or how we were made up, we had representatives from every union that works at the university, an undergraduate representative, myself, a graduate representative, a professor, a representative from satellite campus, the director of residential life, the director of student health services, who serves as the chair, environmental health and safety, occupational health and safety. So we really had everyone sitting at this table sharing their input. We discussed all of the barriers. We were given the charge of examining how to implement this policy and looking at what programs we can create. So we did make sure that we discussed things like employee contracts, state smoking laws, enforcement on campus, past attempts to implement smoking cessation programs, which have failed, and ideas for educational campaigns. So like I said, this is an extremely complex issue, and we were sure to discuss every aspect of it. And like I said, we did have such a diverse group of people at the table that we were considering all sides. future once that comes up. That's one of the can of worms. But the task force's main thing, aside from supporting what was put forth by Senate, was that they would like to add e-cigarettes to the policy. They believe that there is not enough conclusive evidence stating that they are any healthier than regular cigarettes, and they would like to place them as part of this policy and have them restricted in the same way. Before e-cigarettes were really even a thing, this survey was conducted, so we have no data on that, no idea what student opinion is. So this piece of legislation won't even touch the issue of e-cigarettes. That will be something that you guys can all just drop from your minds right now. But it also really emphasized, the task force wants to really emphasize that there needs to be a strong campaign, and it needs to be visible, because students don't understand what the policies are right now, nor do they understand that they're even changing, and students need to be aware of the health effects and aware of the resources that the group will bring to campus. All right, so what do I need from you guys? That's where you come in. You have seen the data that I've presented to you, which clearly supports that the 25-foot rule is something that students are in favor of. But like I said, it doesn't comment on the issue of e-cigarettes. I've requested that a piece of legislation be put forth to do these two things: to reject the smoke-free campus. We've seen that. We've seen that students don't want that. And to endorse the policy that's been passed by the University Senate and 25-foot rule, contingent on the university ensuring that remaining smoking areas are comfortable and convenient for smokers. As students, need to respect the rights of our fellow students and consider that students who do not wish to quit smoking or do not feel that they can quit smoking need to be accommodated. So that's what is going to be voted on tonight, I guess, right? Okay. I'm sure you'll ask a question.
Do you want to take questions, Maggie?
I can.
Are there any questions for Maggie, just on the presentation right now? I know you want to read through the legislation. She just, yeah. Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for questions? Yeah, Senator Khan?
Before I can't say anything, Jim, I'm just letting you know, as you know, I came in late.
Yep.
And I apologize to everyone for being late. I'm in the UConn Med project.
That's okay, yeah.
One of the, so you said you have all, so basically responsible for undergrads, is that
Yes.
correct? Why not any grad students? That's one thing I wanted to mention.
Because I'm acting as an agent of the undergraduate student government.
Okay.
There's a graduate student that sits on the committee, and he works with GSS, I guess, in whatever system that they have. So,
And I have one more question about the education program. Have you thought about putting that as orientation for freshmen?
that is definitely something that was discussed by the task force. Unfortunately, there's no clear channel to be taken in the creation of this educational campaign. So right now, it's still under discussion by the task force of how we'll go about doing this. And it will probably involve collaboration between Student Health Services and the Health Education Office, and potentially with the Master's in Public Health program at the health center to make sure that we have people coming in that are working on it and enough resources allocated to make this educational campaign happen. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, Senator Ghana?
So one of the interesting things about surveys like this is that you will never get an exact representative sample. Right. So I did my homework. About 1/3 of college students smoke. That is the general statistic, and when I say general, it's very general. We had a 22% group of smokers on this survey, and I personally would venture to say that UConn is probably under that 1/3 average. So I'd say that as best we can, we do hit that representative sample.
Any other questions for Maggie Mayer? Thank you, Maggie, for coming in. President Porcini, if you want to read the, if you want to read the legislation, that'd be great.
So there's your background. Before I read this, I know that there are a few amendments that a few people have approached me about. I, for the most part, have read them. I haven't. So that there should be. I have no issue with those amendments. An act concerning the smoking policies of the University of Connecticut. Whereas the health and rights of all students at the University of Connecticut are major concerns of the undergraduate student government. Whereas the smoking of tobacco presents an undeniable health risk to both the primary smoker and non-smokers subject to secondary inhalation. Whereas the University Senate in the spring of 2013 recommended a change in policy to limit smoking to areas at least 25 feet away from all university buildings and air intakes. Whereas discussion in the University Senate included the possibility of banning smoking on all of the University of Connecticut campuses. Whereas the undergraduate student government in April of 2013 surveyed the entire student body on smoking policy and obtained a 60% response rate, including 472 smokers and 1,705 non-smokers. Whereas the aforementioned survey evaluated the student opinions regarding a smoke-free campus, the availability of cessation resources, and the new policy recommended by University Senate. Whereas the results of the aforementioned survey indicate that the student body does not support a total ban on smoking, supports the creation of smoking cessation programs on campus, and a 25-foot distance is strongly supported by non-smokers and slightly opposed by smokers. Therefore, be it resolved, the undergraduate student government does not, or does oppose, all right, I missed my grammar on that one, sorry. The undergraduate student government opposes a total ban on smoking at the University of Connecticut campuses. Be it further resolved, the undergraduate student government supports the creation of new resources that encourage and assist students to quit smoking. Be it further resolved, the undergraduate student government supports the enactment of a policy creating smoke-free areas within 25 feet of every university building, contingent on a review ensuring that the remaining smoking areas are of sufficient quality and convenience to all smokers on campus, and that a map detailing such areas is made available. Be it finally resolved, the Office of the Student Body President shall undertake the necessary steps to ensure that any changes to smoking policy at the University of Connecticut maintain the dignity and comfort of both smoking and non-smoking students.
I'd like to entertain a motion to enact this legislation. Senator Brockwell gets it, Senator Sinari gets the second. We'll begin with questions. Are there any questions for President Courchain? Yes, Senator Brockwell.
If you find a student within the 25 feet, is there any penalty or any discussion that is within the 25 feet of the building that you've seen?
Currently, this is rather unclear. As I understand, the police can ticket you for it. Is that correct? No? Okay, the police can't ticket you. They can ask you to step further away from the building.
Senator Lopez,
Can I comment?
during the debate. Actually, you know what? Just go. Just go.
I already snapped so I can go. I just don't know about the
Right. So Senator Lopez just noted that RAs can write you up. He's not sure about non-dormitory settings. Are there any other questions? Yes, Senator Clark and then Senator Sinari.
So when you read it, we further resolve clause saying that
Yeah, Senator Clark, there's a standing mic there. Yeah, and Senator Sinari, if you want to ask a question, you can just line up right behind him. Yeah. Yeah, I can always. I mean, I said it.
so
You can turn it on as well. Yeah. There you go.
Is it on now? Yeah. The further resolved clause, the second to the line, I don't know if it's called a clause, but says contingent on a review ensuring that the remaining smoking areas are of sufficient quality and convenience to all smokers on campus, and that a map detailing such areas is made available. I'm just curious why the second part of that is there, because, and I don't mean to offend anyone who does smoke, but it would seem convenient to me that short of banning smoking is if you design the 25 feet to make it inconvenient to smoke, then you could almost achieve your purposes. And I know that companies do that, because actually where I work, this is not the big, is it?
No.
No, we're just not sure what you're saying, Senator, but, let me just clarify here, and I'm not, I'm just trying to clarify the question. Are you saying that you're wondering why a map needs to be made available?
No, I'm wondering whether that second part, why it's there, basically. Why is it there? Is it there because,
Of sufficient quality and convenience for
Yeah.
all smokers on campus?
right,
So-
I'm just asking, I could debate it, but I'm not.
Okay. So, yeah, President Boucher, if you could answer.
So based on the more subjective analysis of survey, so like open-ended questions, as you saw in my presentation, one of the things that we found is that smokers are generally a little bit more than 50% opposed to this rule. And based on the subjective responses, what we feel is the reason behind that is that creating this rule would make it so inconvenient to smoke that it would be unfair. And while it may be in the interest of some people to eliminate smoking on campus, as a representative of the student body, I felt that it was not the recommendation of everyone, the best recommendation to say that we just want to make this ban, regardless of what it means for smokers, because there are students who have no desire to quit, and there are also students who may be trying to quit, who you don't want to make it so miserable for them that they feel like their university has turned its back on them. So we felt that doing our due diligence, it was best to have this contingency so that we know that there is a comfortable and quality place to smoke for those who wish to do so.
Thank you, Senator Clark, for your questions. Senator Sinai. No, thank you, yeah.
So I have a quick question in regards to the use of hookah sets and hookah pens. That's not included in this, right?
No, I personally know nothing about them.
So like, are we allowed to like hookah outside? It's still like illegal. That's a good question.
That is a good question, actually, because of
And
the,
like the use of hookah pens too, like,
I think hookah pens fall under a e-cigarette classification. Like Maggie said, we don't have any data on that as far as student opinion goes. And in fact, nobody has any data on their safety. So
it's totally fine.
no, I think the administration is leaning more towards the side of not allowing them. And I do not feel it was necessary to do that, and this perhaps would be subject of future legislation on the matter.
thank you, Senator Sinai. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question of the President? Seeing none, we move into debate. Thank you, President Boucher. Yes, Senator Alvarez. Yes, Senator Clark, you're next on the speakers list. Senator Byrd, Senator Myers, in that order.
Okay, this is going to be hopefully very quick. I already spoke with Ed, Senator Byrd, many members of student development because we weren't able to come to an agreement on the legislation in our committee. But I have two amendments to the legislation that I can provide whoever.
Senator
Yes, Senator. But I'll read them first. The first is an amendment to the whereas clause that currently reads. I'm just going to read what it's going to amend to. Be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government supports the creation of new resources to assist interested students in quitting smoking. That will, that amends a clause, I don't know where it is. Where? Yes. Because the way it's currently phrased suggests that they're going to implement programs that encourage all students to avoid smoking and all of that. And in my experience, and I think in many of our experience, that type of program tends to boil down to 40 minutes in an orientation in which you're told not to smoke, and the reasons given are things that you've heard since 6th grade. So I don't think that's actually as beneficial as possible. And then the second clause is an added amendment in the Be It Further Resolved section that reads, be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government supports increased strategic positioning of ashtrays and receptacles around campus in order to reduce littering and contribute to overall cleaner campus.
as well as positioning of benches and rain shelters in residential areas to allow for areas of convenience for smokers and non-smokers. And the reason for that is first, the ashtrays, we did discuss that a lot in student development, and I spoke with members on that, and that was something we discussed in student welfare committee, which this whole presentation originated with, as being beneficial to actually making there be less cigarettes just all over the place. As well as it's, many people, when you have rain shelters or gazebos in the middle of your residential area, people will conglomerate in those areas, as well as it serves the double purpose as we get them to put benches in and gazebos, which are always good and we don't have to pay for it. So I move to amend that.
And it will be done by unanimous consent. But Senator Essick has a question first, and I'm going to allow that question to be asked.
Wait, do I have a second?
Yeah, it's by unanimous consent, so, but, yeah.
You said that you wanted to happen
It would be in the areas where they were able to smoke, because I know in in the quads of most residential areas, that is 25 feet away from all of the buildings. It was discussed in our committee that is a beneficial thing to actually get it out of the general area of people.
If anybody wants to see this amendment put into writing, please do so by personal privilege right now, because this is getting amended by unanimous consent. So if anyone thinks they may object, I'd like for it to happen this way. Does that make sense?
All right, personal privilege, can we have another?
Yeah, sure. And Kevin, we're also going to change spelling errors, grammatical error. That's all going in this amendment by.
I move to amend that.
All right. So Kevin, you're going to have to do it by language. Do it by track changes. Everybody else can stand at ease for like 5 minutes. Let's get started again. The amendment is listed up there. Again, this is by unanimous consent. I'll give everybody a minute or two to read it, and then I'll go into the amendment. And if anybody objects at any point during the minute or two, they can raise their placard or forever hold your peace. Okay? So take a second to read that. Can you read that? It's really hard. It's track changes. Yo, John?
Yeah.
Is there like lights back there that you can just kill for a second?
Maybe, I don't know what this button does.
Just press it.
Yeah, just push the button.
It does nothing at all.
Oh, there we go. Ooh, Valentine's Day is coming up. Oh, wow, okay.
All right.
All right. Can you read that now?
You can read it.
Yeah, no problem. Everybody read?
This is great.
Any objections, please raise your placard.
Bringing glow sticks to the next meeting.
Senator Crochet objects. Any other objections? I'm going to pretend like you didn't object to that. And, yo, just change that real quick.
Also, I misspelled receptacles because I don't know how to spell receptacles.
All right, guys. We're going to get all of these into that amendment. If there are grammar issues, please do them all at once. Andrea, don't worry about the minutes here.
What was the other one?
Yeah, call them out.
Receptacles spelled wrong. It's underlined in red.
Carlos?
Oh, yes. Please further resolve, quit smoking games. Oh, no, what? There you go. Smoking games. On the right.
Down, yes.
Oh, no, the G has it. No, the G is wrong. The G is right.
Ashtrays? Times? Ashtrays? Ashtrays is one word. Down there, second line, yep. Up. Anybody else? unanimous consent, this amendment is so amended. Okay, so amended. All right, now we go back into the debate phase. Yeah, 1 second. And can we get the lights back?
You want me to correct that?
Okay, back into debate. Is there anybody else who'd like to be recognized for debate? Oh yeah.
It's Clark.
Senator Clark. And then, is Johnny on there? Can you go on? Kevin? Did you put up the bill? Can you put the bill? Did you get it for?
Oh. So anyway, going back to what I was saying in my question, I disagree with the second part of the sentence in the further resolved clause because, first of all, if you're going to make a rule saying that you can't smoke within 25 feet of every building, and then you're going to go back on yourself and say, as long as it's convenient for smokers, that they can't smoke within 25 feet of that building. What if every spot is somehow, I mean, what are the criteria for determining what's convenient? I mean, maybe I don't think walking, standing in the middle of a grass field is inconvenient, but someone else does. So I think it's also too broad. And then again, as an example, at United Technologies, where I have an internship, I know for a fact, because one of my coworkers, he retired now, but used to smoke, and told me that there's a certain radius around the building you can't smoke. The only area that you can smoke is a remote corner of the parking lot near a dumpster. So, and I have a feeling that they might have done that because they won't want to encourage their employees to smoke. So if they make it, maybe indirectly that much more inconvenient, it might encourage some people to not smoke. I don't know because I know, I'm not going to get to smoking is an addiction and whatnot, but I just think that second part of that sentence is unnecessary, and it's also just far too broad because who's going to determine that it's convenient or not? I think we should publish a map of the areas after you just draw that 25-foot radius around the building, whatever areas are left. And I think the buildings at UConn are set pretty far apart, so there's going to be plenty of areas nevertheless. So I motion for an amendment to remove the part of that sentence following contingent on the next clause up from there, where it says contingent in back. So I make a motion to amend the legislation to strike that.
So Senator Clark motions to strike. Is there a second? Senator Lopez seconds. We'll first start with unanimous. Hold on a second. We'll start with unanimous consent. Is there anybody who objects? All right, we have an objection, so we're going in. So don't worry about that. Second part. Just he motions to amend. He motions to amend. Senator Lopez seconds.
It's a lie. I'm so sorry.
No. Both motions to strike the piece of the legislation. So keep it general. All right, we're going to begin with questions first. Okay? So questions regarding the motion to amend. Senator Byrd. Senator Clark, you will be answering these?
Oh, sorry. I just talked Mark's cell phone.
Mark's going to be pissed!
I walked into it before. I didn't see
Did we get that on UCTV? You don't need a motion, just keep them on. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Senator Clark, I'm not understanding why you want to eliminate. It seems that you're arguing the other way. So my question is, do you understand that the clause seems to be something you would want? If you read it, it says, we support this, this 25 feet for every building, contingent on that there's enough room for people to smoke. Then if there's not, if we see that there's a map, and we see there's not enough room for smokers, then we don't support it.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
So I think you're understanding, because what it says is contingent on a review ensuring that the remaining smoking areas are sufficient quality and convenience to all smokers. It's the remaining areas after the 25-foot radius is drawn.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, after you draw the 25-foot radius, I don't care if maybe two buildings are only 20 feet apart, because then the space between those two buildings would be automatically exempt. But if the buildings were 53 feet apart, and if you drew the two 25-foot radiuses, there would be 3 feet. So this review might say, well, 3 feet isn't enough space for someone to stand there and smoke. And what I'm proposing is by striking that clause, 3 feet, that nobody's going to be in consideration of what is convenient. It's, if there's 3 feet, there's 3 feet.
Senator Byrd, you may follow up.
Still not understanding because the point. Obviously,
Yes, Senator Conboy, okay. Questions? Senator Alvarez? All right. Guys, don't raise your placards while we're in the questions. You're still answering questions.
Oh,
okay. Anybody else for questions? All right, we're going to debate. Senator Byrd goes first, and then Conboy, and then Kev. Senator Alvarez. And then Senator Roman. Did you get those? So. Goes to Senator Byrd, Rach, Kev.
I'm just going to read the statement. Be it further resolved that the undergraduate student government supports the enactment of a policy creating a smoke-free areas within 25 feet of every university building, contingent on review ensuring that the remaining smoking areas are sufficient quality and convenience to all smokers on campus, and that a map detailing such areas is made available. Okay, I guess he's still not understanding. So,
Oh my gosh. All right, yes. Point of information about your rights.
Is there someone else in this room that understands what he's saying that I do not understand? Because to me, it's perfectly clear.
Senator Clark, to answer your point of information, yes.
that's what I'm doing.
So, Senator Byrd, if you may.
And if I don't do it well enough, I invite anybody else to explain it better. So we want this clause in there because, let's say hypothetically, all the buildings are within 50 feet of each other, therefore having no space for smokers. But we don't know that right now, okay? So we don't know that there's a building that might be, two buildings that might be 50 feet, more than 50 feet apart. We don't know that right now. So we put this clause in there to say we support this as long as there's enough room on campus for people to smoke without being inconvenient.
That's my point. Get rid of that clause.
So that way, okay, so if we got rid of this clause, what would happen is, no matter, if there was no place in the entire university campus to smoke, that would be fine.
Yeah. That's what I said.
Okay, well, that point.
All right, guys, what Senator Clark is saying, and if I may, Senator Clark, clarify your comments when you were talking about your company that you worked at and so forth. And if I misclarify your comments, please tell me, because I'm not taking a side here, I'm just trying to clarify. He said that having an inconvenient place for smokers to smoke is not necessarily a bad thing. That's why he wants to strike this. Is that correct?
And just as, I mean, you guys have the right to vote this down if you don't agree. I just thought I would vote that one still not.
Yeah, you are. So I was just clarifying that, trying to facilitate.
Okay, so now that we understand what he's trying to say, I strongly disagree. I think that it is possible for this task force to say we want to expand this and not say we're going to ban smoking. I think it's obvious that a ban on smoking completely is not supported by the student body. But this task force could say, all right, we're going to make smoking within 200 feet of every building. We're going to ban smoking within 200 feet of every building, then there'll be no smoking on campus. And that's the same thing as banning smoking, which is not what the student body wants. So I would vote, and I hope all of you vote, to put down this amendment, because I think this clause is very important 2, ensuring the rights of all students, including smokers on campus.
All right, we have a speakers list. We have a speakers list. Who's next? Senator Thomas. Senator.
I understand. I'm calling the previous question.
You can call the previous question. Is there a second? Senator Lopez. We move right into a vote of those who want to call the previous question. Okay? Anybody who wants to call the previous question and vote on Senator Clark's amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. The question has been called. So now we move directly into a vote on Senator Clark's amendment. All in favor of ratifying Senator Clark's amendment, which would strike the clause, the aforementioned clause, please signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. Abstentions? The motion to amend fails. Okay? So now we go back into debate on the original bill. Is there anybody who'd like to be recognized for debate? And everybody else on the speakers list, we're just not going to recognize. Yes, Senator Sonora. Yeah. We can jump right back into it. Yeah. Oh, okay, Senator Bird. No, Senator Bird, you make him up. Yeah, we'll go right back into it. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Is it Bird?
Yeah.
And then who's next? Johnny? Myers and then Johnny?
Reading through this bill several times, I think it's important that we pass this, and I'm assuming we will, but I just wanted to say that I think it's important that we pass this because we represent the student body, and I think that survey proved that the student body wants this, and we should support this. So I hope you all vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Senator Myers? Thank you, Senator Bird.
Okay, I would like to just express a concern of a bit of ambiguity with this bill, just because of the 25-foot zones. I find it to be a bit ambiguous because in my just personal experiences, when smokers can't smoke within 25 feet of a building, they'll take it to Fairfield Way, where there's walkers and other pedestrians who are breathing in the smoke right behind them. So that's my personal experience. And obviously that a Bloomberg-esque crush on smoking is not in favor, not favored by the students at all. So, but obviously nobody likes to walk behind a smoker, regardless if you're a smoker or not. So I just like, to address some of this ambiguity in the bill. So that's it.
Thank you, Senator Myers. Senator Sonora. Senator Alvarez seconds.
Sure. Okay. So, be it further resolved, the undergraduate student government does not endorse any restrictions on the use of hookah pens at this time.
And Senator Sonora, the only thing that's missing is where do you want to put it in college? Right in between, be it further resolved clauses? Okay. So, it's just going to be another be it resolved clause right there. That's fine. Yeah, either that one or that one. Is that okay, Johnny? All right, cool.
Okay. Be it further resolved, the undergraduate student government does not endorse any restrictions on the use of hookah pens at this time.
Seconded by Senator Alvarez. All right. Are there any, first, I'll just offer this again. Are there any objections to the Senator? So we'll go through the process. Are there any questions regarding that? We'll start with this side of the room, Senator Essig, Senator Myers, and then Senator Patel, in that order. Josh, yeah, can you guys just line up in front of the mic, please? This is a question.
I just want to know, do the administration specifically say that they don't endorse it right now? Or are we making the claim that the university does it? Because I know Ed mentioned at some point, I don't know exactly what he said, but I think he said that, I don't know if you could redraft it to Ed. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
So, I have to admit, I know nothing about how hookah pens even work. However, I'm guessing, based on their size and my general understanding of the function of them, they would fall under a tobacco product, perhaps an e-cigarette. Right. I'm not speaking as a scientific expert, nor even a amateur hobbyist. So I don't know, but it is a tobacco product. So yeah.
Senator Myers?
Yes, just a question about the wording. So hookah pens, you're talking about the portable version of the shisha tobacco product, not necessarily the hookah device or other shisha tobacco smoking apparatuses, just the portable pen.
Yeah, just the pen on itself.
Just the pen. Okay, all right.
No, on that, you can't smoke it. Pens. I know a good amount of students that use the hookah itself on campus. I think that's an issue that we should include.
So it's a question that he's asking you if you want to include the actual establishment.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't know if you can use hookah sets outside on campus, because I know it's illegal to use inside of the doors. So I don't know.
So, Senator Sonorai, are you saying that you don't know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's outside.
Let's Senator Sonorai, if you don't mind, let's refer to our presenter, Maggie, Mayor. Yeah, please. Oh, yeah, please. Please. Yeah. Senator Byrd, on the speaker list, question, please.
Sorry, I'll be short and sweet. We just didn't even touch the issue of e-cigarettes because we have no idea how the student body feels about that. So we just left it out. My personal recommendation, I have no idea whether or not I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Since we have no data on hookah pens or any other hookah-related thing, my recommendation is to leave that out as well. And I'll leave it now.
Thank you, Maggie. Johnny, you're still answering questions. Who's next? Senator Byrd.
Would you object to writing your own piece of legislation or about these products, like separate from this bill?
You want me to make my own?
I'm asking, would you do that? Would you take the 10 minutes?
Sure, I think so.
Thank you, Senator Byrd. Forget Senator Clark.
No, Clark wants to.
Oh, no, this is still questions. Anybody else with questions regarding this motion to amend by Senator Sonorai? Thank you, Senator Sonorai. Next, we move into debate. Would like to recognize Senator Convoy, Senator Byrd, Senator Lopez, Senator Clark. Do you want to be recognized or not? For debate, yes, Senator Clark and then Senator Thatcher. Did you get that? Thatcher.
I understand the concern with this, but I don't think that's what this bill is trying to target, and I think if we address that in this bill, then it makes the other, we also have to worry about all the other clauses, and I agree with the other Senator Byrd that that should be in a different bill, not this one. This bill is kind of all tobacco products in my mind when I think of it, and I think when we in committee discussed the recommendations, we were worried about all smokers, and that includes hookahs. So I'm going to call the previous question.
Previous question was called, second by Senator Alvarez. We move into a vote. All those in favor of calling the previous question, this will go right into a vote on the amendment presented by Senator Sonorai. Please signify by saying aye if you want to call the previous question. Aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. Nay. Abstentions? The previous question has been called. We go right into a vote on Senator Sonorai's amendment. All those in favor of ratifying Senator Sonorai's amendment as proposed on the screen, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Nay. Abstentions? The motion is division. Yeah, we'll do it by standing vote. All those in favor of ratifying the amendment, please signify by rising. All in favor of ratifying the amendment, please signify by rising, by standing up.
If you want it, stand up.
If you want the amendment, stand.
You voted yes, stand.
Right. Yeah, I heard a little bit of a diversion, but it doesn't look like it. Sit. All against the amendment, please rise. Please sit. And the motion fails. The motion to amend that is fails. So next, we go back into debate. We'll pick up right where we left off. Colin, who's next on the debate list? Senator Conboy? I think, I'm not sure.
So I'm from the Student Development Committee, and this past week we discussed this, the recommendation, and for those of you who are wondering about how we included separate areas in there, and that was a concern we talked to Ed about having that, is because the 25-foot rule is something that the university wants to keep it away from buildings, but it is still students' right to have a safe, open space to smoke. And if we also requested a map because we wanted to see if these areas that they designated for no smoking overlap, and it's also in there somewhere about how there still needs to be space for smokers to smoke because it is their right to smoke, it's outdoors. So we also discussed how in other public areas and universities, they have areas like gazebos and benches where it's kind of a nice area, hang out. I don't personally smoke, but for those who do, it's not smoking by dumpsters. So that was why we did that. And I'm going to call for the previous question.
Senator Conboy calls the previous question. Is there a second? Senator Alvarez, second. We move right into a vote on whether to call the previous question, that is to say whether to go right into a vote on this bill. So if you're in favor of calling the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Abstentions? The question has been called, and we go right into a vote on this piece of legislation. So all those in favor of ratifying and acting concerning the smoking policies of the University of Connecticut, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Third reading passes. Congratulations. Yeah, Senator Alvarez. Next, we move into a statement of position regarding housing rights.
All right, this is for student housing rates, which has been proposed an increase to. Statement of position concerning student housing rates. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with advocating for the rights and interests of the student body and passionately defending students' rightful stake in the university.
Whereas members of the administration have proposed a 6% price increase on rate 1 housing and a 6.5% price increase on rates 2 and above, to be presented to the Board of Trustees on the 26th of February 2014.
Whereas such a percent increase would reflect a significant cost increase to the undergraduate student body.
Whereas this rate increase has been presented to the student body through a public forum presented by Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Richard Gray, Provost Monchoy, and Vice President for Student Affairs Michael Gilbert.
Whereas administrators have presented a need to cover costs including but not limited to accumulated deferred maintenance, inflation, as well as current and future renovation costs.
Whereas the undergraduate student body has not been provided with a cost analysis of the above-mentioned initiatives, nor with reasons explaining the accumulated deferred maintenance or a reasonable plan to address such issues.
Whereas a portion of the funds from the state of Connecticut received through Public Act number 13-233, an act concerning Next Generation Connecticut, have been allocated specifically to residence hall renovations.
Whereas at the public forum, it was stated that the funds from Next Generation Connecticut have not been factored in accordingly to the above-mentioned housing rate increase.
Be it resolved that the undergraduate student government supports the administration's effort to address accumulated deferred maintenance costs, but expects that an increased cost to students is considered a last resort by the administration.
Be it further resolved that the administration has not taken the appropriate steps to provide a reasonable justification for the percentage increase chosen.
Be it further resolved, the evaluation and review process by which this rate increase was determined has been unsatisfactory.
Be it further resolved that the Student Fee Advisory Committee, SFAC, is a potential avenue by which such a rate increase could be evaluated more appropriately or used as a model for a more responsible review process in the future.
Be it further resolved that the student body calls for a comprehensive justification of such a fee, an explanation for the accumulated deferred maintenance, and reasons as to why the considerable allocated funds designated in Public Act 13-233 and Act Concerning Next Generation Connecticut are insufficient to address such costs.
Be it further resolved, the student body opposes any housing rate increase at this time until the aforementioned steps have been taken to ensure that the University of Connecticut exercises fiscal responsibility before passing a large economic burden onto the students of this school.
Be it finally resolved that the student body calls for the Board of Trustees to deny any housing rate increase to be presented on the 26th of February 2014.
Senator Alvarez motions. Is there a second to ratify this? Senator Brocklow gets a second. Moving to questions. Is there anybody elected? Senator Chairperson Rana? Anybody else with questions regarding this legislation?
I just had a quick one that you guys can probably clarify really quickly. I know that we're kind of asking the Board of Trustees or even just the administration as to why this increase is happening when we do have funds available through Next Generation Connecticut and such natures. But then there's a clause talking about the Student Fee Advisory Committee. I was kind of wondering how you guys saw that, how that factors in, because that's like, that's another unrelated factor that is kind of, I feel like, not as related. I just was wondering how you came about that.
That came about, I would say, through talking with Ed, because the Student Fee Advisory Committee has a much more extensive process for reviewing fee and rate increases. And so we were given there's a very exact structure to it, and so that could be potentially used as a model for future evaluation of these rate increases.
Also, just to add, it's nice, it's easy to complain about something, but it's nice to provide like a potential solution. So that's why we thought this was a good idea to put it in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senator.
What is a deferred maintenance cost?
The deferred maintenance is the term that the administration likes to use to refer to basically any deteriorating forms of resident schools, such as plumbing issues, anything along those lines. I don't know, I don't want to list things that aren't deferred maintenance, but things, projects that need to be addressed.
Things that they haven't addressed for various reasons. Part of what we were addressed with at the public forum when we asked what was being done to address the fact that we were accumulating these things, they didn't have a specific plan in place. They're currently trying to look at what they're going to do to fix that, and that's also part of this legislation because there was no plan in place to address the fact that these things are happening.
Any other questions regarding this legislation? Thank you, Senator Alvarez and Comptroller Price. Next, we move into debate. Senator Byrd. Anybody else for debate?
I'm a sponsor on this bill, so I think it's clear that I support this bill, but I just want to make one small change. Kevin, you might want to pay attention a little bit. I was in a meeting today where we were shown a cost analysis. I think it wasn't sufficient, but it is some type of information that we were given. This was given to us after Michael Gilbert was sent this legislation, so we did kind of respond by giving us this insufficient piece of paper that had some numbers on it and some projects that they may be working on. So I just want to amend the third to last whereas, and just say, it says, whereas the undergraduate student body has not been provided with a cost analysis. I just want to say sufficient cost analysis.
So, Senator Byrd motions to amend. I'm going to first try and see if this was by unanimous consent. So does anybody object to this amendment? Okay, so by unanimous consent. So anybody else for debate on this now amended bill? Senator Alvarez for debate. Chairperson Rana. You want to?
Just to provide a little bit more information to the Senate, because I think there is some unfamiliarity with this, and also with what Senator Byrd just talked about. Recently, President Corshain and Vice President Guggens met with Dr. Gilbert, the Vice President for Student Affairs, and he provided them with some information as to where these costs are coming from. So they do, this legislation is not to say that the administration is clueless or that they don't know what they're doing. It's just that at this time, it's not sufficient information by any means for us to accept any housing rate increase. And so we're not trying to be adversarial with administration. We're not trying to say that no increase in the future is not justified, but as of right now, there's no solid evidence to justify such a fee.
Chairperson Rana? Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, this legislation is pretty well written, I would say, in my opinion at least. We're kind of hitting all the points that we want to in terms of addressing the situation rather than outright attacking the administration in a negative way. You know, it's good that we are offering a different avenue through which we can reevaluate ways in which we might have imminent fee cost increase in the near future or whatnot. But just, you know, I was at the town hall meeting for this when they were speaking about it. And there was a little bit of ambiguity between what the administration was saying and for what reasons and whatnot. So definitely when the senators that did sponsor this and when our comptroller and Senator Alvarez did draw up this legislation, I think it does take initiative the way that we want to in a systematic and impartial way to an extent, in a way that we are representing the student body and making sure that we're getting our point across without burning any bridges. So I would like to motion to call the previous question.
Previous question has been called. Ed, do you want to talk?
It'd be nice.
All right, I'm just not going to recognize the call of previous question. Yeah.
This is by no means a reason not to pass this as it currently stands, but so everybody knows, the percent increase that has been proposed is 6%. And it is not that the entire 6% is unjustifiable. Around all units for next year are going to probably need around a 3% increase because of increases in benefits to employees and general inflation. So out of the 6, I would say about 2.5, 3 has been justified. So just so everybody knows, this passes and we go through with it. And if the Board of Trustees approves 3 anyway, we have not failed. We've just gotten where we're supposed to be. Just so that everybody, I know this document says no increase. There's always going to be an increase because inflation's always going to go in one direction for the most part. I'm not an economics major, so maybe 3% it would be a realistic expectation, yes.
Is there anybody else who would like to be recognized for debate? Seeing none, we move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying this piece of legislation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion passes. Congratulations. All right, next we move into an act concerning office hours for USG senators. Senator Byrd, Senator Conboy as well. Sorry.
Just before I read this, this piece of legislation was sent out earlier today. I made one, well, pretty big change there. That is not, it's up here, but it's not in the original piece of legislation that you received. So I'll just make sure that's clear when I read it, and then you can point it out on the projector as well. So an act concerning the office hours of senators. Whereas the undergraduate student government is charged with working on behalf of the student body, whereas bylaw 1, section 1, subsection G, states that senators shall make themselves available and accessible to all their constituents. Whereas the responsibilities of the office of senator should extend beyond attending mandatory meetings. Whereas spending time in the office will facilitate an atmosphere of accessibility and foster active participation among members of the undergraduate student government. Therefore, be it resolved that senators will be required to hold one scheduled office hour per week. Be it further resolved that these office hours shall be held in the Student Union Room 219. Be it further resolved that during office hours, senators shall make themselves available to talk to students, answer questions, and perform any other duties that pertain to the office of senator. Be it further resolved that senators will schedule their designated office hour time by the end of the second week of each semester or by the second week after they are sworn into office. Be it further resolved that senators will report their designated office hour time to the Vice President. Be it further resolved that each senator's office hours will be posted on the website in order to provide their constituents with that information. Be it further resolved that these office hours shall be mandatory and have the same attendance requirements as Senate, caucus, and committee meetings. Be it finally resolved that all the aforementioned requirements shall be made mandatory for all sitting senators within 2 weeks of passage of this act.
Senator Bird, you get the motion. Senator Conway, you get the second. Are there any questions regarding this piece of legislation? Chairperson Arnold.
I guess one main concern I might have had is, have you guys thought about what the format or the number of senators you would want at any given moment in the office for their office hours, provided the fact that we do have office staff in there present for most of the, for the duration of the time our office is open, as well as other senators and other executive members who are, doing their homework and stuff in there. So I'm just kind of concerned as to how, if you thought about how that factor of how that space is being used up will make a difference as to whether or not how many people you want in the office at the time.
So I did think about that, and I assumed since everyone has a variety, everyone has different schedules, that it wouldn't be like 7 senators would be in the room for the same amount of time while exec was meeting, and I just assumed that wouldn't happen. But if there's a concern, possibly during debate, if you want to add an amendment, that's fine. But I just assumed that wouldn't be happening. And if it does, we can amend this piece of legislation later. But this is kind of a test run. And I think part of the reason why we're doing it in legislation is because it used to be in the bylaws, and it was taken out. And I think we want to do like another test. Correct me if I'm wrong, it was taken out because it wasn't working very well, it wasn't enforced.
No, it was taken out. I took it out. It was the speaker who did this, and I took it out because I didn't want to force people to come into the office. So it was completely a speaker's decision to do that.
So,
and when that was changed during the bylaw changes, when we instituted the Senate, at that time it was the Senate operating policies and procedures. Now it's the standing rules in the Senate.
So before it used to be 3 hours, and I think the reason why we want to do it legislatively is so that we can kind of test run this. And if it happens that this is not really working out, we can amend this piece of legislation or try to fix it later on. But I think how it stands right now, it'll be fine.
Thank you.
Also, another idea I had is if it does turn out that everyone's trying to get upset at the same time, it can always be a job of someone in the office or possibly deputy speaker to make a schedule.
I think that would be the vice president, because the vice president is being given all this information, so and this person, whoever the vice president is, or right now is taking care of it, next time this is different, will be something. They can manage that.
Yeah, hold on a second. Senator Clark. Go ahead, Ron. And then they pass it in. Jim Clark. And then Sergeant.
Okay, so my question is regarding what kind of role you envision for these office hours. There's a lot of different things I think you can do in the office. Some pertain to funding, but usually those are handled by the office staff. So I was wondering what you guys had in mind in terms of what these people would be doing for this.
Okay, so my idea was, well, for funding, we have a funding committee, so I do a lot of funding in the office, so I might do that work during my office hours. But there's plenty of things people can do. I know, for example, Rachel is in contact with a lot of people, so she can utilize that office hour time to send emails, But my goal for this whole thing is for our office hours for each senator to be next to our name and who we represent, and for people to say, oh, Dan will be in the office Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. I'm free at that time and I have a question about Hilltop. I can go in there and I know they'll be there. That's the main reason why I want this piece of legislation to pass. But I think it'll foster more engagement among members who tend not to spend a lot of time in the office, and to be more productive as well. Just sending emails, reaching out, that kind of thing.
Senator Ng.
So, Art kind of brought this up. Where do you plan on having these senators? Because as you guys both know, the room is really hot and stuffy and full of people all the time. So adding more bodies to this area would just kind of harm the office workers' ability to work, because it would be loud, there'll be extra bodies in there. So where do you envision them being?
I envision them being in the office. I envision people who want to be in the office to watch YouTube or do homework, being in the SOC possibly, but making room for people who have office hours at the time to utilize that computer space. That's what it's for. It's for senators to do their job. So I envision, let's say there's 3 senators using the 3 computers that face towards the back office, and other people can use the other computers. That's what I envision, that people will be doing work that pertain to the Senate. Rachel.
Also, I'd just like to say, I understand that it's not a huge office and there's 40 senators, but if we question this bill based on the idea of space, I think it offers a lot of positives, and as Senator Byrd said earlier, it is a test run. If we realize that all 40 senators are in there all day, every day, which won't happen. But if it is too packed, then we'll have to think of other situations, but I think space is the biggest issue, but it offers a lot of more positives for our constituency, and I think that's what we should be concerned about, and that's what we should be trying to look at.
And it's only 1 hour a week, so it's not like people will be overlapping and a lot of people will be in there at one time. I think it's an hour, you stay in there, and then you leave if you're done. Does that answer your question?
Senator Clark is next.
So this is redundant, but I was going to ask you why the SOC, just because for the most part during the day it seems to be kind of filtered in and out, but it's a much bigger room, and it is connected to the USG office, so if you need to use a computer, I think it would be perfectly fair to go in there and ask someone if they're on it, like this is my mom's house, I use a computer, but to have people posted in there, it just seems like you might have problems, you may have to implement it, but
so what's
doing it now.
What's the question?
The question is, why did you want to do the SOC?
I didn't pick the SOC because it's not the USG office. So I find it would be cumbersome that someone would walk in the office, ask the front desk person, Andy, say, oh, I'm here to see this person, and be like, oh, they're supposed to be in this office, but really they're in this other room that's not really part of the office. But if you want to add an amendment to this bill, I welcome it. I don't know if I would vote for it, but.
Also, there's a lot of times when I ask people to meet me in the USG office, and then I plan on walking them over to the SOC conference room anyway. We can edit it on this bill, but usually if you're asking someone to meet you and you say the SOC, they don't really know what you're talking about, but if you say the USG office, that's a more direct link. It's kind of more official too, to say you're serving your office hours in the office and not a little lounge area.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else for questions? Yes, Senator Sargent, Chairperson Sargent. Rookie mistake.
My question for you guys is, did you consider also saying this to senior staff and the executive committee?
No, this is just for senators.
Can I ask why?
I was told that executive committee has office hours. Is that not true?
That's not you.
You? Yeah.
I haven't enforced them because I've been nice about it.
We're always there.
Is there office hours for senior staff? So I can direct the question to the president.
Yeah.
John is required to have office hours, the rest of senior staff.
I think that would be a really good amendment, because I know there's times where people come in asking directly for a chairperson, or I need one to help with the bill, and then I ask Andy, hey, when's this person in? Well, I mean, sometimes they walk in before they go play basketball, but like, they slept in today. So, I mean, I think it's very beneficial. I think it's a good point.
Yes, Chairperson Adams.
I guess this might be vague, but can we just say that we have to post our office hours except, because I don't think except is a problem showing up for office hours. We just don't know when we're there. Okay.
You already, yes, that's the question. Yeah, you have to do it by unanimous consent during the day. And then if it's not, then you're hostile. Any other questions? Seeing none, we move into debate. Is there anybody who would like to be recognized for debate? Yes, Senator Byrd.
How do I do this? I want to make a motion.
Okay, Senator Byrd motions to recess for how long? 3 minutes or 4 minutes. We'll go with 3.5, seconded by Senator Conboy. All in favor of recessing for 3.5 minutes, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? What do you want to say?
Details of the amendment.
So we changed a couple things regarding some of the questions that we had, and just to change around some of the jobs that would be used to enforce this. So the first change is we have, be it further resolved that senators will notify the Speaker of the Senate about their time slot instead of the Vice President.
Can somebody hit the lights, please?
I got it. All right, so notify the Speaker of the Senate about their designated office time instead of the Vice President. That way it stays within Senate members. We're adding a clause, be it further resolved that no more than 3 senators can hold the same office hour time scheduled on a first-come, first-served basis with the Speaker of the Senate. The point of that is so that we try to avoid some of that overcrowding. So we only have 3 senators holding office hours at the same time. That's max. And that's scheduled, whoever schedules there first gets their preference. If your last come and the office hours that you wanted are scheduled already with filled with 3 people, then you can't have that slot. And then we're just added, just to be clear, that last clause right there, they're mandatory, have the same requirements as Senate Caucus Committee, and this is also going to be enforced by the Speaker of the Senate, which is how it is for all those other things as well.
Is that it?
That's it.
Great. So we continue with debate. Thank you, guys. Would anybody like to be recognized? Oh, hold on. These are offered by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to these amendments to the bill? Seeing none. Claire, would you like to be recognized for debate? Also, can we hit the lights again?
Yeah, I got it. Oh, she got it. Thank you.
I know that the new amendment kind of addresses this, but I would like to bring this up anyway because this semester, or last semester actually, I started developing my grand plans to renovate the SOC, perhaps knock a wall down and make the USG office bigger. So take that into consideration for more space as you vote on this legislation.
Would anybody else like to be recognized for debates on Senator Byrd?
I think a lot of the things that you are all concerned with can be addressed just amongst ourselves. The point of this bill is not to overcrowd the office or kick out people who want to watch YouTube in the office. That's not the point of the bill. The point of the bill is to benefit the constituents so they know where you will be when. So I want my constituents in Hilltop to know, oh, I can reach Dan when he's in the office at this time. And I know a lot of us are in the office for more than an hour a week, so you shouldn't have a problem voting for this bill. For those of you who don't spend an hour in the office, I think it would be beneficial to you and your constituents to spend an hour in the office to get some productive work for USG done, as well as to make yourself open to those constituents who want to know who you are and ask you questions or need help with something, because that's your job. So I hope you all pass this, vote yes for this bill so we can pass, and so that we can all try to do better work in USG and engage the constituents, our constituents more.
Would anyone else like to be recognized for debate? Senator Alvarez, followed by Senator Clark.
All right, so just in case you were thinking about voting this down, something that I don't think many people realize, and I didn't realize when I was a new senator, is when you spend time in the office, you learn substantially more about the organization. And even if your direct constituents, which I think is a concern, your direct constituents rarely do contact you. But it not only gives you that opportunity to be there for them to contact you, but also spending time in the office, the amount of students coming in with issues over funding, with issues that they care about, the amount that happens, and then having senators there able to talk to them and hear their issues completely changes your view and perspective of this organization. So I would be very strongly in favor of passing this legislation, not because it makes people more beholden to the rules or overcrowding the office or any nonsense excuses to not pass this, but it in reality gives you a new opportunity to do your job better and to understand the organization better. And it's really not a big burden that you are now going to have. It's an hour a week, which you can predominantly do homework and do work on Senate bills and do all of these different things. So I would very strongly support passing this, and I motion to call the previous question.
All right, the second question goes to Senator Byrd. All those in favor of calling the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All against? All abstentions? The previous question has been called. We now go into a direct vote on this bill. All those in favor of passing?
So as I just found out, I'm chairing the bylaw committee. That just told me like an hour ago. So everything is to be announced because I didn't know that I have this. But I will ask you guys to please help me out with this. This will be my first time chairing a committee. So come join me, email me, talk to me, be my friend.
Chairperson Rana?
Just real quickly, I am now accepting letters of intent for funding board vice chair. More information is on the USG website, and if anything, you can speak to me if you have any questions or concerns. And the deadline for that is going to be 4 p.m. next Monday.
Any other people for announcements? All right, adjourned at 9:13 p.m. Very good work. Eliza will collect these.
Not a big burden that you are now going to have. It's an hour a week, which you can predominantly do homework and do work on Senate bills and do all of these different things. So I would very strongly support passing this, and I motion to call the previous question.
All right, the second question goes to Senator Byrd. All those in favor of calling the previous question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All against? All abstentions? The previous question has been called. We now go into a direct vote on this bill. All those in favor of passing this piece of legislation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All against? Nay. Division has been called. Please, we'll do this by standing vote. Please rise if you are in favor of passing this legislation. Thank you. Please rise if you are voting nay on this piece of legislation. Abstentions? Thank you. Clearly passes. Shiv, do you want this back?
Yeah. Gonna suspend the rules and move into report of external affairs, by unanimous consent. So ordered. Go ahead. Chairperson Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From what led to be a very productive week for External Affairs went to a very unproductive week. Unfortunately, tomorrow both of our meetings one meeting is indefinitely canceled until Monday, February 24th. That was the meeting at the state capitol to testify for the $15 million preparations for Next Generation Connecticut. And the other meeting is the MCCP Mansfield Community Campus Partnership meeting at the Town Hall at 4 p.m. If classes are canceled, that meeting will most likely be canceled. So we were supposed to have a very exciting week this week, but unfortunately, not so much. But our hopes are not taken away completely because we will be that much more prepared when time comes in March and February 24th. That is all. I give the floor back to the speaker.
Are there any questions for the chairperson? Thank you, Chairperson Sargent.
Thank you.
We move back into Act Affairs, the report of Act Affairs. Is there Vice Chair or Representative, please, Senator
Ortiz. Thank you.
Sorry. So,
Alright, so Act Affairs is working on hosting a coffee time event, and which will take place on April 1st. We are currently compiling study tips from various academic organizations and working to ensure campus-wide cooperation. We will also be providing coffee and hot chocolate at this event, so please show up. Finally, we are reaching out to Husky owners who have worked with us in previous semesters because we thought Huskies would be appropriate. Academic Affairs is also working on publishing teaching style descriptions. We are gauging faculty interest by contacting deans, assistant deans, and scholastic standards committees of the University Center. And she just wanted to say for everyone to have a happy Valentine's Day, and Academic Affairs helps you guys.
that was the Dixon salute. Any other questions for Senator Ortiz? Next, we move into report of funding board. Chairperson Rana is not here. Oh, he is here. Just in a different spot.
I love you. And funding board really doesn't have anything going on right now, which is a good thing. We're just working on disbursement requests periodically, and we did set the fall 2014 budget application for March 25th, 2014. So if you are in any organizations, you can start talking to your board or your CFOs and let them know that this deadline is in full force, and that's all I have right now.
Are there any questions for Chairperson Rana?
Oh.
Yeah.
We are meeting as of now because there's still class, but if all classes are canceled for tomorrow, then we will be meeting.
Where are you meeting?
416A upstairs. For tomorrow only. At 5.
Are there any other questions for Chairperson Rana? Thank you, Chairperson Rana. Next, we move into report of student development. Chairperson Manfredi.
So we're looking into the restructuring orientation that's very imminent and very much in process. Today, Rachel Convoy and I attended a meeting with Maria Sidoti, I'm not sure how to say it, but it's a cool last name. She was extremely nice, very, very interested in what we had to say. We had a wonderful meeting with her, and we're going to be keeping in close contact with her. Right now, we're exchanging feedback about a survey that we're going to issue regarding orientation.
to understand what students remember after the fact. We're also looking into some, like President Forshane, we're looking into the use of the logo and trying to understand when not student organizations are allowed to use it and the reasoning behind these situations. We're conducting research, I will say. We're going to be tabling on Monday on Fairfield Way with chocolate. Get yours. It's not chocolate, it's nice. And then on Wednesday, the 19th at 6 p.m., she left. I think it's at 6 p.m. Domenica's organization, the ACLU club on campus, will be hosting an event in the Little Cross Reading Room called Know Your Rights, where they're having a woman who's very much connected with the Title IX initiatives going on across the country come in and talk about Title IX and field questions. There'll be cookies and coffee.
Are there any other questions? Questions for Chairperson Manfredi? Thank you, Chairperson Manfredi. And then next we move into the Board of Student Services. Chairperson Hines.
Okay, I'm gonna make this really quick. Friday, we're handing out carnations outside of McMahon Dining Hall in the lobby. They're free, come get one. That's pretty much it. If you're in my committee, you need to be here at 5 o'clock tomorrow, no matter what, unless you're a commuter. I don't care if there's a snow day, you need to be here, because I can't tie those notes onto 1,000 carnations by myself. That's it. Oh, and we're meeting in the conference room, because I kicked Parth out of the conference room tomorrow. Huh? What? Oh, and if you're in the office, don't take a carnation, please. There's 822, exactly. Maybe 922. Oh, and if you're not part of my committee, come too. Please. I have chocolate. I actually do.
Any questions for Chairperson Hines? Thank you, Chairperson Hines. Next we move into discussion. Senator Romanek. No, is she here? Oh, Senator Conrad, please. If you will.
Hi guys, I'm representing Roma because she got to go to an interview, so hopefully she does really well. For the Accessibility Assessment Committee, what? She didn't tell me. We are handing out a survey, and committee chairman, we're going to ask that you take a lot extra so you can get them. 2 senators are not here, and it's also going to go out in an email for a survey monkey. And this is just so we can get our preliminary data of USG internally and thoughts on people. There's 19 questions, and then feel free to write anything at the end. Please hand them back to me at the end of Senate. I'm going to be looking at them as opposed to Roma tomorrow. And then everyone must attend caucus on Wednesday. It's going to be at 6:30 in the SOC conference room. There's going to be food, and we're going to be doing discussions to go over questions like these and many more. So if you have any questions, talk to me about it. If not, just please hand this. Just please fill this out and hand it back to me at the end.
Yeah, it's Friday. Eliza, are you all set? All right, great. Anybody else for discussion? Yeah, Chairperson Adams. Is that an announcement? Because it looks like an announcement. Anybody else for discussion? Okay, yeah. Senator Alvarez for discussion. Go ahead.
Just real quick, going along with the legislation for the housing rate that we just passed, this is kind of an announcement. It also is going along with the February 26th meeting of the Board of Trustees, which we are trying to organize a greater student body effort around to try to push against back against this fee increase. And we're currently working with Tier 3 organizations, trying to get them to sign on and co-sign this legislation, as well as showing the Board of Trustees that students actually care about this issue and are willing to push back on it. So that's just a reminder, February 26th, we are still working on this issue. Yes.
Yeah.
What time?
I believe it's 10:30.
Is that correct?
Gotcha. That will come out closer to the date. I know the meeting, I believe, starts around 10:30, but the thing floats sometimes. So we will let you know all of that information. That's it.
Yeah, President Bushanian answer.
This is real quick, and actually I might be stealing this from Dan. But just to remind you, since it was a little while ago, during public comment, during this meeting, we had a member of the student body come and share some, what I think are rather urgent concerns. So, quick. Student Services is working on it. Great, that's what I like to hear. Thank you.
Senator Byrd?
I have two comments. One of them he stole, but I'll just re-emphasize that my friend came in here because she didn't know what to do when she was complaining about these problems, and I said, I think this is something that Senate could take on and do a really good job trying to improve her quality of life here at the campus. The other thing is that piece of legislation that we just passed about office hours, it starts as like right now. So, well, as long as the president signs it, it's 2 weeks start basically now. So you have from now until 2 weeks from today, or whenever he signs it, which will probably be tomorrow or something, to get your office hours to the Speaker of the Senate. So first come, first served basis. If 3 people sign up for the time that you want, you don't get that time. So make sure you send the Speaker the office hour, the 1 hour you want, the date and the time, within 2 weeks from now.
Any other people for discussion? Moving to announcement, Chairperson Hodges.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of revise what I said before. If we end up not having school tomorrow, I will be getting the flowers earlier, so please watch your emails, because if I can get them earlier and we don't have classes, we'll be doing it whenever I get them. Just watch your email.
Senator Ng?
So as I just found out, I'm chairing the bylaw committee. That just told me like an hour ago. So everything's to be announced because I didn't know that I had this. But I will ask you guys to please help me out with this. This will be my first time chairing a committee. So come join me, email me, talk to me, be my friend.
Chairperson Rana?
Just real quickly, I am now accepting letters of intent for funding board vice chair. More information is on the USG website, and if anything, you can speak to me if you have any questions or concerns. And the deadline for that is going to be 4 p.m. next Monday.
Any other people for announcements? All right, adjourned at 9:13 p.m. Very good work. Eliza will collect these. Great.